it's Liz from SuperSisterFitness.com, and today I brought in my expert trainer friend, Zlata, the founder of the Sexyfit Method and leader of the Sexyfit Community. She is a lifestyle coach, an entrepreneur, and a general bad mama jamma, and I brought her here today to help you with a couple of tips as far as nutrient deficiencies and why we're experiencing these cravings. So first and foremost, Zlata, I hope I did good on the intro.
You did. This is after I had giggles for like a half an hour, so she's already doing great. And if I burst into a laughter, just, ignore me for a minute.
Thank you for joining me here today, and let's just jump right into it. One of the things that I noticed you talking about recently was cravings, food cravings. So I want you to talk a little bit about that today. Why do we have food cravings and what can we do about it? Because I know for me, I love salty foods, and all the savory stuff. I used to be big on sweets, but now I'm big on salty. And so what can you share as far as why do we get that and what can we do?
Totally. And before I charge into answering this question for you, I just want everyone listening to know that this is something I personally had a lot of issues with. And, something I don't really like to talk about as a fitness competitor for 8 years. I've done an obnoxious amount of shows, 26 shows.
You can't see, but she has a bag of trophies sitting on the floor over there.
I have two biggest problems in my life: where to put my shoes and where to put my trophies. They're equally detrimental to the choice of where I live. I was a fitness competitor for many years, and this landed me in a box of eating, if you would. So there's certain foods are good, certain foods are bad, and I ended up with extreme cravings at the end of my career because I was that macronutrient deficient and micronutrient deficient, and I'm going to explain what that means. So for me, it looked something along the lines of it didn't matter what I ate, when I ate, how I ate it. It could be a combination of the weirdest stuff, and it really didn't matter. I could take a broccoli, wrap it in a tortilla, put honey on top of it, and eat that. It got that bad. It was awful. And a lot of women I talk to are I have the weirdest cravings ever, of a pregnant woman. And I'm okay, well, I can relate to that. So this is real. This is a real story.
This is real. It's getting real today, folks.
So, and starting Sexyfit, I am a very logical woman. I love logic, I love science, I love figuring things out and putting them together. And I was why is this legitimately happening? No normal human being in their mind would ever do this.
Yeah.
So explain. Body, you have some explaining to do. So I looked at it from purely body perspective because, feelings and emotions and emotional eating and stuff like that, I got into that a little bit later. But from a perspective of just body. When we're talking about a macronutrient deficiency, what do I mean by that? A lot of women I coach, a lot of women you coach, and a lot of us out there are so busy that by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, we only had one meal.
Truth.
And then you walk into the house and you attack the pantry and you open it and it's it's just
Truth.
Happening. And then and then when you're done, you're oh my God, I'm such a terrible person. I can't believe I did that again. And then you promise yourself not to do that again. So that's one type of cravings that we're looking at. And the reason that's happening is because food is calories and calories are energy. Right? So when you're getting home at the end of the day, even if you sat on your beautiful butte all day in the office, your body is still burning calories, it's still burning energy. Your heart's still beating, you're still breathing, you're still looking at stuff, it's happening. It's naturally burning a set amount of calories. When you get home and you're craving something, it's just because you're craving energy. Your body, and the quickest thing that it can get the energy from is typically something sweet or something savory in the form of a carbohydrate like chips or pretzels or
French fries. That's my favorite.
I love French fries. So what happens then is because carbs are the fastest way that we can get energy that's what our body's going to go for. It isn't going to sit there and go, well, if I combine avocado with 3 ounces of chicken, I'm going to get lasting energy. It doesn't work that way. It's like, what can I get my hands on right now, right this second?
Right.
So we're looking at a macronutrient deficiency here because we don't have enough protein in our system. We don't have enough carbohydrates in our system. We don't have enough fats in our system. So of course you're going to have cravings because your body just literally wants the energy.
Needs food.
It needs food. It needs fuel. It's like, hey, give it to me.
You can't just go all day and not eat anything, or have chips from the vending machine.
I mean, that could work for a short amount of time.
Yeah, you're gonna crash and burn though.
Crash and burn real quick. I mean, the reason I was having so many problems with my body after competing, I mean, we're talking like stage 3 adrenal fatigue, like bad. It was bad news bears. It's because even though I was eating quote unquote clean food, chicken, fish, lots of vegetables, I just wasn't eating enough. Mm-hmm. So if my body is naturally burning 2,000 calories, I'm only eating 1,000, what's gonna happen eventually? Well, you're gonna keep on running. You're either gonna eat half the pantry somewhere in between there, or you're gonna crash, which is exactly what happened to my metabolism. So that's why we have cravings, that's reason 1. Does that help? Does that explain?
Totally helps. So
okay.
To recap, I'm hearing that the number 1 reason is not eating enough.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
not getting enough calories to meet your daily needs, your daily energy needs.
Exactly.
Even if you aren't even working out, you're just sitting at a desk all day. You still have daily energy needs.
You still have daily energy needs, exactly. And I think a lot of us don't really quite comprehend that.
That is very true.
You know what I mean? And we're like,
I see that a lot too.
Well, I'm not really doing anything all day. Well, you're still breathing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, your heart's still beating.
You had to walk to get out of bed to go to wherever you are now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where my method came about. I was like, let's look at this from a very logical perspective. Like, what do I burn? What do I need? And it's not about like eating less and working out more. It's like literally, let's create some sort of balance here so I know what is going on in my system.
Yeah.
Another reason why we can have cravings is if we're not necessarily paying attention what kind of macronutrients we eat. So if you're eating carbs all day, all your body's doing is just riding an insulin roller coaster up and down. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have the right recovery. It doesn't have the right source of dense energy, something like a fat. And it's just a lot more difficult to stabilize any kind of healthy energy flow in our system. So that's for those of us. This is relevant to you if you eat, but it's mostly you have to eat every 2 hours because you're having bagel for breakfast, and then you have a soda with something, and then at lunch you had a sandwich, and then you're just crashing along the way, and that's why you're having so many cravings. That's why you're finding yourself by the vending machine so many times throughout the day, is because you're not getting the right source of energy in your system.
So what's a better option for people?
A better option, I love practicing the idea of a sustainable lifestyle that you can actually keep up for life with. So I've never written a meal plan in my life for a client. So I can't necessarily like put you in a box, if you would. But what I can tell you, the easiest thing to do is what you can measure, you can improve. So one thing very important for everybody and everything is awareness, what you're doing right now. So when I ask women to track food and say like, hey, how much food are you actually eating throughout the day?
What's really going on?
What's really going on here? Well, I eat all day. I just kind of eat 1,000 calories. I'm like, well, it's just the transformation isn't in the 1,000 calorie range. It just doesn't happen that way, because no wonder you don't have energy to do anything else.
Totally.
So first thing is to get aware. MyFitnessPal is my fave because it's very easy to use. If you think it's not easy to use, I remember like a couple years back before MyFitnessPal time, I had to write down for my coach everything I ate every day and actually like hand calculate macros at the end of the day. That was not okay. That was not fun. So it's actually really, really simple. So add that in, look at it. If you're deficient in the amount of calories you're taking in and you're like, oh wow, I really need to up that. So the second question is, what kind of nutrients are you actually eating? If it's mostly carbohydrates, well, let's balance that out with a healthy source of protein, like maybe a boiled egg, or a little bit more chicken at lunch, or perhaps, some sort of lean protein fish at night or something like that. That's the easiest way to really find out, because there's no one magical answer to this question, because everybody's going to have a different kind of schedule.
Okay, so that's a great point. You need to have a good macronutrient balance. Macronutrients, to recap, are proteins, carbs, and fats. If you're eating too many carbs, balance it out with more protein and healthy fats. Yes?
Indeed.
But what about, so say I'm already doing that and I still cannot get my brain off of the ice cream or the chocolate cake, or for me it's chocolate brownies with chocolate frosting, something like that. What if I can't stop thinking about that thing and it's still there, and it's physical. It's not just mental. It's physical. Right. I'm having shakes and withdrawals, not maybe that extreme, but you know what I'm saying. So what do I do if I'm still there?
You're having to psych yourself out and you're doing breathing exercises.
I'm trying to focus. Yeah. It's just all bad.
So did you hear that?
Yeah. It's like Donald Trump.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Even though I was not having a brownie craving problem, I felt like I was having a drinking problem that day, because it was just that bad. So not to get into politics, she might need to cut that out.
Probably not.
Probably not. Sorry, Trump. You're having a chocolate craving. This thing is serious, because I've been there, and it's
when it comes to is specifically around that time of the month, ladies, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that about? Why is that happening?
I feel like you just set me up for a perfect answer. If there was a question I would love to answer on this, it would be this one. And it's not necessarily a macronutrient deficiency. It's not necessarily that you don't have self-control, or that you are a terrible human being who loves brownies. It's not that.
Or you're just doomed to be fat
Take
forever.
Take a breather. It's not all that.
Yeah.
Something that I learned through my journey with adrenal fatigue, and through my journey of working with a bunch of hormonal specialists and hosting them on a podcast. I mean, I've interviewed over 150 people at this point about this. And one thing we can all agree on as health and fitness experts and hormonal experts with nutrition experts is the fact that the reason that we have crazy chocolate cravings is because we're deficient in magnesium. I saw this crazy stat the other day that was over 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium. The reason that's happening is because the soil, the air, the pollution, global warming, global cooling, whatever you choose to believe in, that is causing our system, our thyroid, our health in general to not necessarily deal with everything that's going on in the most proper way. Sure, kale has magnesium as well, but chocolate has not more magnesium, but about the same amount, but it also has crazy type of effects on our nervous system and the release of dopamine, because we have a different kind of feeling and a different kind of emotion when we eat a chocolate piece.
It's love.
It's love. Yeah, dopamine, serotonin, all that's going crazy. And you're so that's the reason we always reach for chocolate and not reach for kale, which is unfortunate, because, have you ever craved kale?
Actually, I have, but I had to get to that point.
Oh yeah.
Crispy, a crispy kale chip.
With chocolate?
Or sauteed kale with some garlic, but that's so health.
That's so good. I would eat that. So
it is good. You should try it.
Magnesium. Focus.
But yeah, no, certainly.
Magnesium, you guys.
when I'm in the midst of that time of the month, girl time, I'm not thinking about sauteed kale. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why you end up craving chocolate, because it does have magnesium. It does have that soothing dopamine release for your neurotransmitters, and that's the reason we reach for chocolate first, not to mention all the sugars, because we know it's going to be quick energy too, because at that time of the month we're also deficient in energy. So my biggest advice to somebody who's listening, it can go two routes. One, you can take my word for it, and you can look at me and say, oh, she kind of knows what she's talking about, so God bless you. And start supplementing 2 pills of magnesium every morning, and especially before your period, get completely super focused and diligent on that, and I guarantee you in 2-3 months it's not even going to be an issue. If you want to go more of a hyper-focused route and you want to take a macronutrient deficient panel, any doctor can do that. It's a blood test. Your insurance is going to cover that, and they're going to tell you exactly what you're deficient in. I realized during my last panel, because this is something I do every 6 to 8 months, is that I'm extremely deficient in iron. So that's something I added, and I have to say, I feel so much better, and I eat enough protein. So it's not even that I don't eat protein. You know what I mean? It's just how my body is at the moment. So, and that little thing can make a world of a difference.
Huge difference.
Magnesium, iron, DHEA, vitamin C, glutamine. You know what I mean? All of that stuff is not the woo-woo stuff that you would spend your money on. It is legitimately so helpful because our food is deficient in micronutrients in general because it travels all across the globe.
And the soil is depleted of minerals these days because of modern day agriculture and farming practices, like mass farming practices. So that's a great tip. So, okay, recap, because I love the recaps. If you are having extreme food cravings, here are some things that you can do, just to recap your words. Number 1, make sure that you are keeping your macronutrients in line and balanced. And number 2, second tip, is to also check and make sure that you are not micronutrient deficient. So you're still getting all the vitamins, minerals, and all the other, hot topic words that you just mentioned there. Maybe we'll make a little list of common deficiencies, and I'll post that up over on the blog for you. I will link that in the description box below. And where can they find more information like this? Because this is super useful stuff. Like, this is the building blocks of a solid, bulletproof nutrition program. So where can they find more stuff from you and the Sexyfit community and get more support while we're, learning these types of things?
Totally. And with me, it's no nonsense, no BS. I'm very to the point. I'm very straightforward. And you can find me on sexyfit.com. I host a podcast that comes out weekly with amazing experts. I've had Shanti, I haven't had you yet, so we have to make that happen. So lots of amazing experts on the podcast. But since we pride o/ on a sense of community, because it is so important when we're on the journey, the community access is free. So sexyfit.com/community, / you know what I'm saying? So grab yourself an access. We'll see you in there. And if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer them. So
Love it. Thank you so much for joining me today, Zlata. I will link all of everything she just described in the description box below. Make sure you go check it out. As she said, it's totally free. You have no reason not to. So give her a try, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.